Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining on a Sunday morning. I'm sharing my screen and we will be covering Canto 2, Chapter 9, Texts 11 and 12. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shyamavadata Shatapatra Lochana Vishanga Vastra Surucha Supeshaha Sarve Chatur Bahava Unmishanmani Praveka Nishkabharanam Suvarchasaha Nishkabharanam Suvarchasaha Syamavadata Shatapatra Lochana Pishanga Vastra Surucha Supeshaha Sarve Chatur Bahava Unmishan Mani Praveka Nishkabharana Suvarshachaha. Synonyms: Shyama, sky, bluish; Avadataha, glowing; Shatapatra, lotus flower; Lochana, eyes; Pishanga, yellowish; Vastraha, clothing; Suruchaha, greatly attractive; Supeshaha, growing, youthful; Sarve, all of them; Chatu, four; Bhavaha, hence; Unmishan, rising, luster; Mani, pearls; Praveka, superior quality; Nishka Abharana, ornamental medallions; Suvarchasaha, effulgent. Translation: the inhabitants of the Vaikuntha planets are described as having a glowing sky bluish complexion. Their eyes resemble lotus flowers. Their dress is of yellowish color, and their bodily features very attractive. They are just the age of growing youths. They all have 4 hands. They are all nicely decorated with pearl necklaces with ornamental medallions, and they all appear to be effulgent. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The inhabitants in Vaikuntha are all personalities with spiritual bodily features not to be found in the material world. We can find the descriptions in the revealed scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam. Impersonal descriptions of transcendence in the scriptures indicate that the bodily features in Vaikuntha Loka are never to be seen in any part of the universe. As there are different bodily features in different places of a particular planet, or as there are different bodily features between bodies in different planets, similarly, the bodily features of the inhabitants in Vaikuntha Loka are completely different from those in the material universe. For example, the 4 hands are distinct from the 2 hands in this world. Text 12. Pravala Vaidhurya Mrinala Varchasaha Parisurat Kundala Maulimalina. Pravala Vaidhurya Mrinala Varchasaha Parisurat Kundala Maulimalina. Pravala, coral; Vaidhurya, a special diamond; Mrinala, celestial lotus; Varchasaha, rays; Parisurat, blooming; Kundala, earring; Mauli, heads; Malina, with garlands. Translation: some of them are effulgent like coral and diamonds in complexion and have garlands on their heads, blooming like lotus flowers, and some wear earrings. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. There are some inhabitants who have attained the liberation of Sarupya, or possessing bodily features like those of the personality of Godhead. The Vaidhurya diamond is especially meant for the personality of Godhead but one who achieves the liberation of bodily equality with the Lord is especially favored with such diamonds on his body. Om Ajnana Timrandasya Gnananjana Shalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you all once again for attending the Sunday class and to discuss the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is always nectarian. So once again, we're doing Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 11 and 12. And just to give you a little context, we are discussing the answers given by Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj's beautiful and intelligent questions in the previous chapter. And he is systematically addressing each of those questions, Sukadeva Goswami, and providing so much more details that we would not find in any scriptures elsewhere, meaning not in the Vedic scriptures, I'm talking about outside of the Vedic scriptures. Details of the heavenly planets, details of the residents, the denizens of these heavenly planets, right? So this is something that we should all pay attention. We shouldn't take this lightly. And, this is something that we are extremely fortunate, I would say, for us to be able to get a glimpse, get clarity, get some, it's not imagination, but getting a true picture of what it is like in those spiritual planets in Vaikuntha and how those people are described. The residents of Vaikuntha live, their bodily features, their interactions, and so on. It is so beautiful. So for the next few minutes, this is going to be a short class. As you can see, the purports are small, but there are a few takeaways that resonate strongly with me, and I thought I'd share that with you. And like I said, it is very specific and very detailed descriptions of Vaikuntha. And the way Prabhupada describes this is that they are very, very different. The people, the inhabitants of Vaikuntha, they're very different from our bodily features. I mean, they are, when you talk about beauty, they are the topmost in terms of how beautiful they are, how handsome they are, how attractive they are. Their bodily features are also so much more beautiful and so much more perfect in terms of every bodily feature, from their hair to their eyebrows, to their forehead, their eyes, all the way down to their, toes of their feet. They're so beautiful. And not just that, they have 4 arms. We don't. We here in the material world have 2 arms. And so, they're very, very, very different in terms of the bodily features, in terms of the quality of the beauty. And they never seem to age beyond a certain youthful age of maybe early 20s. So everything is so fresh and everything is so youthful, in their looks, in the way they carry, in the way, they are ornamented and how, they're dressed and adorned. And even the decorations, even the adornments, even the jewelry that they are adorned with are also described so vividly in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, the good part that also resonated with me was, there's no influence of time. There's no influence of time in the spiritual planets. They're completely free from the modes of material nature. So there is no ignorance, there is no passion, not even, the mode of sattvic mode of goodness. And so therefore there is no lust. The inhabitants are so fortunate that they have no lust. They are completely free from all of that, and they've actually transcended all of these modes. And they are in a truly beyond the sattvic stage. So they are in a mode where they can very freely be able to serve the Lord. There is only the mood of service there. Man and woman, woman, wife and husband, they're all living harmoniously. And they're living without the worry of having to put the where is the next meal coming from, how do I take care of the family. There is no jealousy, there is no envy, there is no anger, there is no greed. So they're completely, there are no distractions there. They're completely free from all of those distractions that we face here day to day. We're constantly fighting every moment with some anxiety or the other. Anxiety is practically ingrained in us from the time that we're born to the time that we leave these bodies. So in the spiritual planet, Vaikuntha, the definition for Vaikuntha is a place where there is no anxiety. It's free of any anxiety for that matter. So when the inhabitants are so free from all of these anxieties, obviously there is no lust and there is no such feeling as, what do I do next and how do I do it? Because all of this is natural for them. The service mindset is already there. So they're constantly in service, they're blissfully in service. And who are they serving? They're serving the Supreme Lord. And how are they serving? They're serving, uninterrupted, unconditional, apratihata, ahaituki. They are so fortunate that they're able to offer their services so nicely without any distractions. It's completely uninterrupted and unconditional. So these descriptions that are given in the Srimad Bhagavatam are so powerful, they are so authentic, they are so real. Nothing is imaginary or fantastical, right? For a person, I was just, Ruchira and I were reading Canto 4 last night, and I was looking at the picture. It's all about Prithu Maharaj in the beginning, where Maitreya is describing to Vidura about the greatness of Prithu Maharaj, who is the Lord himself, the Lord incarnate. And even on the picture on the front cover of Canto 4, if you look at volume 2, you will see how beautiful it is, the way it has been depicted, how nicely it's been depicted based on actual descriptions of actually how the heavenly bodies, the spiritual, inhabitants of Vaikuntha are. And you see, where Indra is basically on his knees. He's on his knees and he is begging for forgiveness from Prithu Maharaj. And Prithu Maharaj is humbly, lifting him up off the ground, saying, no, please don't do this. Don't embarrass me. And in the background, we can see Lord Shiva is there, Lord Brahma is there, Narada Muni is there, even the 4 Kumaras are there, and Krishna is there in his 4-armed form. Garuda is there. He's just alighting from Garuda, and you see, Krishna is there, and along with him are the Vishnudutas. And you see the lovely, beautiful, bluish complexion of Krishna, and even the Vishnudutas, they have the same bodily features as Krishna. And what's even more attractive and intriguing is, their feet are not touching the ground. Everybody else, you can see their feet are firmly on the ground. Gravity is definitely acting. But Krishna's feet don't touch the ground. Neither do the Vishnudutas. It's such a beautiful depiction. You see the expressions, you see the colors, you see the way they are, decorated with garlands and jewels, and the facial expressions, and all the demigods are, sprinkling and distributing flowers from the heavenly planets. You see the expression of Indra, Lord Indra. When you see all of this, it just takes you to that place. You don't even have to leave Nepal for that matter. Just by absorbing ourselves in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we are automatically transported to the heavenly planets, beyond this material realm, that is. So we are in Vaikuntha there. So one has to have complete faith. That's what was my key takeaway from that was, one has to have complete faith in what we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. 99.99999% of the material world are naysayers, right? They're constantly saying, that's not true. Nah, how can someone have four arms? Nah, how can they be bluish in complexion? Nah, how can they be so beautiful? Nah, this, nah, that. They're constantly trying to poo-poo everything that we're trying to say and describe about what we're learning, right, from our scriptures. But the scriptures, the faith in the scriptures is very, very key. And as we gain faith, we start with a little faith and we keep fanning that faith, fanning that spark, as we call it. Our faith only grows. And with that grows the attraction for the Lord and for all his eternal associates. And that's the beauty. And so when that happens, the heart is wanting to be there and be a part of that experience. So therefore, reading the Srimad Bhagavatam every day strengthens our attraction. And with that comes the realization of how we are suffering in this human life. And not just that, but the importance of human life, because it's only in this human life can we actually realize and be able to free ourselves, do something about it in terms of being able to free ourselves and completely get away from this material universe, this material body, and be back in the spiritual planets, back in our Swarupa. So through the association with devotees, it is, with pure devotees especially, our lives can be completely transformed. And actually, when I say devotees, where it's devotee and a pure devotee, when we say devotee, we're referring to a pure devotee, really, because most of us, starting with me here, we're only starting our journey, our spiritual journey, in terms of becoming a devotee. But when we say devotee, we are commonly referring to a pure devotee. So let there be no misconception about that. So one thing that we need to know is, like I said, we need to have faith. We need to have that eager endeavor. That eager endeavor is very, very important, because without that eagerness and without actually committing ourselves to being a part of this experience in terms of service, if we don't engage ourselves in devotional service, there is no way that this heart can be cleansed. And if there is no faith, it's only going to be a very superficial effort that can only last so long. After a while, it's going to fan out. So we need to have that faith in the combination with our devotional service, our commitment, our eagerness. That's what's going to take us forward. That's going to propel us forward, right? While Maya is trying to pull us back, we are being propelled forward. And Krishna is constantly reciprocating, right? His hand is always there. He's always willing to help us. If we're taking one step, it is said that Krishna takes 10 steps towards us. And the best part is that, even the most sinful of human beings can also take to devotional service. So no material qualification or disqualification is required. Can be the worst of the worst, but just with that eagerness and that faith, and by engaging in devotional service, one can make progress on the spiritual path and get completely freed from this material universe, from this material bondage. So no need to be born in a high caste, no need to be born as a man or a woman, no need to be born as a man, for that matter, because the woman is considered one of the lowest in a sense, without getting into any controversial discussion here. But, being given that opportunity, because, even the Brahmanas are given such a high position in society. Whereas, when Lord Balaram and Krishna were in, the pastime that we hear about, when they were hungry and they went to the Brahmanas were like, don't disturb us, we're in the middle of a sacrifice, right? And so who did they go to? They went to the gopis, the women, who were considered to be of lower, stature in society. And that was the reason why they were not even there in the sacrificial pyre offering mantras. They were not given that access. So that was society then. And what did the gopis do instead? With all their love, they cooked for Krishna, Balram, and all the gopas, and Krishna was completely satisfied. So it was that eagerness, it was the love that they carried, which completely attracted Krishna, and that's what Krishna looks for. It is not the erudite scholarship. It is not the birth, right? So it is not about how rich you are. It is not about how educated you are, right? So no need to have any of that. It's not about how powerful you are, and it's not about how beautiful or handsome you are. So not to be, and not even the need to be in a specific geographical location either. You can be anywhere and still make it Vaikuntha. That's what Prabhupada said. When you're engaged in devotional service with all your heart, we are in Vaikuntha, he says. Right. So through the association of a pure devotee, one can very easily transcend these modes of material nature. Look at what happened to Mrigari, for instance, right? Lord Narada Muni was able to transform Mrigari. Mrigari was a terrible, terrible, person in the sense he was a hunter and he would hunt, but he would only half kill the animals. He somehow was so sadistic that he would somehow gain pleasure in seeing the animal suffer before it died. And so when Narada Muni came and met him and said, "Why are you doing this, Mrigari?" And Mrigari said, "Hey, I'm doing this because I like to do it. This is how I've been doing it." And so Narada Muni, in his expert way, said, "Hey, if you want to do it, you're a hunter, you want to do it, you kill them. Why are you killing them half? Kill them completely." Because first, when Narada Muni said, "No, you need to stop this," he wouldn't agree. Mrigari was, "How do I take care of my family? This is my sustenance. This is what I do for my bread and butter. This is my livelihood. So how can you tell me to stop it?" So Narada Muni said, "Okay, fine. If you cannot stop it, then at least kill them. Don't make them suffer. Kill them completely." And so there's a transformation. Long story short, a transformation takes place, and Mrigari is completely spiritualized. He is so cognizant of the mistakes that he's made, the sinful nature that he had, that he corrects that to a point when Narada Muni comes back to visit him. He is surprised to see that from a distance he sees Mrigari jumping, and the way he's walking is very, very amusing. It's not the normal walk. And then he realized, as he looked closely, Mrigari was actually trying to avoid a whole army of ants that was crisscrossing across the path between him and Narada Muni. And when he approached Narada Muni, he offered dandavats. So Narada Muni was able to understand that Mrigari had actually changed. He didn't even want to kill an ant while he was treading on the ground. And there are several examples like these, right? We have Valmiki, who is a nobody, but then he also transformed, being in the association of a pure devotee, and he was able to compile the epic Ramayana. Similarly, Ajamila was able to remember Krishna at the time of death, and the list of proofs goes on and on and on, right? So it is so beautiful because the Bhagavatam is bringing to bear all of these various examples in various contexts to reinforce, to clarify, to make our hearts open to what is happening in the spiritual planets, what's happening in the spiritual pastimes, to what's happening with the associates of the Lord and their interactions with the Lord and the Lord's interaction. So there is the personal features of the Lord, not just in his looks, in his physical looks, but in terms of how his dealings are with various entities, in the spiritual world. Take Sudama, for instance. It's so beautiful when we hear about, the Sudama pastime. It just melts my heart. How Krishna reciprocates with someone like Sudama, who's completely broken. He's impoverished. He has not even, a grain of rice to feed his family. His family is suffering, and they're experiencing extreme hunger. But then, even when he approaches Krishna, he's seeing his good friend from the past, but he doesn't have, he feels so embarrassed to even beg or ask for a little rice or a little wealth, for that matter, a little money to be able to feed his family, his hungry family. And Krishna understands all of that, and Krishna's reciprocation is exponential, right? How he takes care of Sudama and how he respects him, how he takes care of him and washes his feet. All of those things are like, they completely melt your heart. So the Bhagavatam is giving us that introspective look into Krishna's dealings with his associates, with all the various, the pastimes that are described. It is just strengthening our love. It's reinforcing our understanding, and it's strengthening our love and faith for Krishna. So when we die, we should die completely, because when we die, we're just leaving these material bodies for sure, right? The gross elements are gone, but still the subtle bodies is still left. So that's what happens for, again, 99.9999% of the people. But there is that tiny percent of individuals, when they leave their body, they leave not only their material bodies, but they're also leaving their mind, intelligence, and false ego. Now, the subtle body is also gone, right? And that's when they transcend. That's when we can actually transcend and go back to the spiritual planet. Otherwise, we may end up, getting, better birth, or maybe birth in a higher planet, but we're still stuck in this material universe. And the goal for us should be to be so attracted to Krishna and the Vaikuntha-vasis, the associates, the eternal associates of Krishna, so that we can also ourselves reach that Swarupa, or our own spiritual constitutional position in Vaikuntha, right? And once we go there, Krishna tells us we will never come back, right? So that's Janma Karma Chame Divyam. So we should be able to not only understand, and that's the reason why we have to read the Srimad Bhagavatam every day, because that's what is going to continue to fan our spark. We are but tiny sparks, and our faith is even smaller. So the Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing, chanting, listening to the Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam from pure devotees, is the best way for us to be able to inculcate and nurture this feeling of separation from Krishna, and being attracted to Krishna, and being able to visualize what that is like in Vaikuntha, to be with him and to be with all of the associates, to become a part of some of his pastimes even, right? It is not impossible. We just need that eagerness, we need that faith, and we need to endeavor. And that's what we hear, learning from the Damodar Leela as well. It is that endeavor that is so critical. And in addition to that endeavor, the mercy. And Krishna is always waiting for us to come back. So his mercy is always going to be there for us, right? So let's apply ourselves. So today's takeaway really is, let's continue to read the Srimad Bhagavatam with all faith. Let's hear from the pure devotees. Let's associate with the devotees regularly, so that we can help ourselves also in terms of gaining that faith, strengthening that faith, gaining an attraction, a true attraction, a genuine attraction, not a fantastical Harry Potter kind of attraction, but an attraction for the real spiritual world. And being able to recognize that we have a Swarupa, our spiritual body that is in the spiritual world. We just need to get rid of this terrible, dirty, contaminated material body, the mind, the intelligence that we have, the material intelligence, and this false ego that we carry with us always. We need to get rid of all of that. So when we die, we need to completely die. And to be able to do that, learn from the Srimad Bhagavatam, hear from the Srimad Bhagavatam, associate with the devotees, chant and help us and help ourselves in terms of purifying our heart, removing all this contamination, being completely absorbed and attracted. That attraction is going to draw us closer and closer towards Krishna. So with that, I'd like to end today's class. It is really not ending for us. It is really a beginning, in terms of our spiritual journeys and what this means to us eternally, not just for this lifetime, but beyond this lifetime. So with that, I would like to stop and wish you a very happy Sunday and wish you a wonderful week ahead as well. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.